She was wading through the river when she registered that her 10 friends were already dead. Behind her in the forest, the D-wolves paced at the water's edge, whining but refusing to cross. They had been conditioned to fear flowing water. Her name was Siona, and she had just stolen 2 volumes of encrypted journals from the man she had sworn to destroy. The crystalline pages pressed against her ribs like a rough skewer his confessions. 10 people had died for those pages. Kneeling wet on the grass of an orchard, she looked toward the lights of his tower and shouted something. What she didn't know at that moment was that the man already knew she had taken them. He wasn't angry, he was interested, because Siona was no accident. He had spent 3,500 years breeding her. That fact alone is strange enough. A universe-spanning dictator who can see the future, yet lets the one person who hates him most steal his most private words. But the real winding of the spring in God Emperor of Dune is this. Her rebellion, even the assassination she is about to launch against him, is probably part of his plan. The book opens by inverting every power narrative you know. The tyrant sitting on the throne, whose body is slowly becoming something else, is not afraid of death. He has been unable to die, or rather, unable to die in a way that, in the moment of dying, buys back the creature called human from every tyrant who will come after. That is the strangest book in the Dune series. It is not the epic's beginning, nor its climactic showdown. It is a keystone paradox. The first 3 books traced how a hero gets alienated by power. Here, the alienation has already been underway for 35 centuries. So when the loyal ones, the idealistic ones, the furious ones close in to kill him, you as the reader find yourself wedged into an uncomfortable place. You fear for him, and you want him to die. You see the horror of him, and you catch the fading traces of a person inside. If you keep listening, you will hear Siona nearly die of thirst in the desert. You will watch a Duncan Idaho replica climb a 900-meter cliff with nothing but his hands. And you will stumble into the gentlest trap in the entire empire, a woman created for the sole purpose of melting a tyrant's heart. The love and the hatred of these people are all caught in the same vortex. They do not know whether they are undoing his work, or whether they are, with their own hands, lifting off the armor he has worn for 3,500 years. Episode 1: The Stolen Journals and the New Ghola. This is Siona, the young rebel leader who has just stolen 2 volumes of the God Emperor's journals and is fleeing for her life. She hears Ulo die first. The 3 of them have been running north through the forbidden forest for what feels like hours, strung out across half a kilometer of moon-shadowed ground. First moon hangs almost directly overhead, silvering the needled duff underfoot, and the air is still warm from the day's heat. It carries resin and damp rot from the forest floor, and when the breeze shifts, a thread of salt from the distant Kind Sea. Ulot runs last. His name means beloved straggler in the old Fremen tongue, and he is living up to it. The D-wolves are fewer than 100 meters behind him now. Siona can hear them not howling, but yelping, panting, the sound a predator makes when the prey is in sight and the outcome is certain. She does not look back. Ulot screams. It is a single sharp sound, then a wet crush, then the pack's yelping turns to snarling as they fight over the body. Siona keeps running. The sealed packet bounces against her chest under her jacket's citadel plans, and the 2 volumes Ulo had insisted were some kind of cipher. Had been wrong about that, but had been right that they were worth stealing. She knows what they are now. Kuteg is in the middle. He has always been the strongest of them, and when he hears Ulo die, he stops running. Siona hears him turn, hears him shout something wordless and defiant at the wolves. She hears the pack hit him. Kuteg fights. She can track his struggle by the sounds alone, a yelp that isn't an animal, the thud of a body hitting a tree, the rip of fabric, then the wetwork of teeth. It lasts perhaps 20 seconds. She does not look back. She cannot afford to. Now she is the only one running. The river is close. The D-wolves are conditioned to stop at the water's edge. They will not cross the Idaho River. If she can reach it, she lives. If she stumbles, if she catches a root or a stone in the dark, she dies with a sealed packet of the God Emperor's secrets still warm against her ribs. The tree's thin. She can smell the river now, cold and mineral. The ground slopes down, the duff giving way to rock, and then she is plunging through the last screen of brush and the river is there, wide and black under the moonlight. She does not slow. She hits the water at a full sprint and throws herself forward. The cold slams the breath out of her, but she swims. The current is strong, tugging her downstream, and she lets it take her while she angles toward the far bank. Behind her, the D-wolves have stopped at the water's edge. She hears them pacing, whimpering with frustration. Then the sound fades as the river carries her around a bend. She hauls herself out on the far side, onto a bank of cultivated orchards. Dripping, gasping, she lies on her back in the grass. 10 friends dead, Yulo, Kuteg, 8 others who had believed in her, who had trained with her, who had stolen from the God Emperor's own citadel because she asked them to. Dead in the forest, their bodies already cooling, their water lost to the night. Siona pushes herself upright. She is not just a survivor. She is the leader of a rebellion whose first operation has cost her everything except the one thing that matters, the packet. She presses a hand against it, feeling the hard edges of the Redulian crystal paper inside. These volumes contain something the God Emperor does not want known, something she will use. She speaks aloud to the empty orchard, to the moonlight, to the distant towers of the citadel she has just escaped. I will destroy him, in my own name, not in the name of Muad'Dib or any ancestor. In my own? Then she stands and she walks into the trees. The Journal of the God Emperor. This is the God Emperor Leto II, a pre-worm hybrid who has ruled the empire for 35 centuries. His body, now a 7-meter-long, sand-trout-skinned, nearly invulnerable entity. His own words, set down in the stolen journals, explain what he has become. The voice on the Redulian crystal paper is direct, almost intimate, as though he were speaking to someone he trusts will find the pages long after his death. He knows what he is. He describes himself without evasion, a face that is still recognizably Atreides the hawk nose, the heavy brows set into a body that is no longer human. 7 meters from what was once his head to the atrophied flippers that were once his feet, 2 meters in diameter, 5 tons of flesh, most of it the sand trout skin that is fused with his original body over 3,000 years of slow transformation. The sand trout were the larval form of the great sandworms of Dune. Each one a blind, leathery creature, no larger than a hand, but collectively they had sealed a planet's water underground for epochs. He had taken them onto his own flesh when he was still a young man, still the son of Paul Muad'Dib. The sand trout had merged with his cells, forming a living suit that would eventually transform him into something else entirely. Something that had never existed before. He is not yet a worm. He calls himself a pre-worm, a transitional creature. His skull dissolved long ago. He no longer thinks from a single point. His awareness distributes through the entire length of his body. He can sense pheromones at 3 parts per million. He can hear a whisper across a kilometer of open ground. He can see heat. He remembers everything his ancestors ever experienced, a library of human lives stretching back into prehistory. When he is bored, he goes on what he calls private safaris into those ancestral memories, hunting for moments of genuine human feeling. He rules the known universe because he controls the spice. All melange flows through him, and he has a hoard beneath the citadel so vast it could collapse economies if released. The guild cannot fold space without spice. The Bene Gesserit cannot access their other memory without it. The great houses cannot extend their lives without it. He controls the single substance on which galactic civilization depends, and he has done so for 3,500 years. Why? The journal explains that too. He calls it the Golden Path. He does not define the term in these pages, not yet, but he speaks of a future threat, something he alone has seen, something so terrible that only a tyrant of absolute power could prevent it. His transformation, his tyranny, his breeding program, the relentless peace he has imposed on humanity, all of it serves this one purpose. He writes about Siona II, the rebel who has stolen these very pages. He knows she has taken them. He is not angry. He is interested. She is the product of his breeding program, an Atreides engineered across thousands of generations, and she has done something no other human has ever done. She fades from his prescient sight. He can see the shape of her in his visions, but the details blur. The future she inhabits goes dark at the edges. She is, in some sense he does not yet explain, exactly what he has been trying to create. The Kreis knife and the lasgun. The previous Duncan died badly. The God Emperor had been waiting for him in the crypt, the vast underground chamber beneath the citadel where he often received visitors. The crypt was cool, always cool, the lighting low. Tunnel spokes sloped upward and downward in gentle gradients to accommodate the royal cart, the suspensor-borne platform on which he traveled. Some of those tunnels extended for many kilometers, secret passages he had excavated himself with Ixian tools. He had been nervous. He admitted this to himself with a kind of detached curiosity. Nervousness was an emotion he rarely felt anymore, and he had learned to enjoy it when it came. The Duncan he was waiting for had been acting strangely. There had been reports. The man had received a package from the Ixian embassy, a briefcase, supposedly containing reports on trade negotiations. They knew better. He could smell the machinery in it. A lasgun. This was not the first Duncan to try to kill him. One of the previous gholas had packed an unstable explosive around his waist and detonated it during an audience. The blast had barely scorched the sandtrout skin. That Duncan had been vaporized. He had been bored by it, the predictability of it, the waste. This Duncan descended into the crypt carrying the briefcase. He was angry. His face, the face the God Emperor had known across 30 centuries and dozens of incarnations, was tight with the resolve of a man who has decided to die for something. He did not open with pleasantries. He demanded to know why the God Emperor had allowed Siona that woman. He called her to steal the Citadel plans and 2 volumes of the sacred journals. The God Emperor explained, patiently, that he knew about the theft. He explained that Siona was a test. He explained, with a deliberate prod, that the Duncan had failed to notice something important about the Harkonnen legacy on Giedi Prime, an undiscovered spice hoard, hidden there for millennia, that he had known about all along. The Duncan's sister had died on Giedi Prime. The Harkonnens had killed her. He wanted him to feel that failure. The Duncan drew the lasgun. He pointed it at the God Emperor's face and asked, "How many times must I pay the debt of loyalty?" The God Emperor did not answer with words. He used voice, a Bene Gesserit-trained command that seized the Duncan's muscles and froze him for the instant he needed. Then he left the royal cart, something this Duncan had never seen him do, and moved. The pre-worm body was not slow when it chose not to be. The lasgun fired once, burning through the cart's canopy. His body slammed into the Duncan. There was a sound of cracking bone, a single exhaled breath, and then the Duncan was on the floor of the crypt with his chest crushed. His last word was Siona. He looked down at the body. Another Duncan dead. Another failure. He felt the grief, he always felt it, but he had learned to bury it quickly. He summoned Monio, his major domo, and gave his orders. The lasgun was to be preserved. It would be presented to the Ixian ambassador as evidence of what their gifts were used for. And a new ghola was to be requested from the Tleilaxu, a new Duncan, the next in an unbroken line stretching back to the original man who had died defending Paul Muad'Dib, Moneo Leto's major domo, Siona's father. A man who has seen the golden path and serves with trembling loyalty arrived. He was tall, gray-haired now, with the Atreides features, the same hawk nose, the same heavy brow, but softer, worn down by decades of service to a master who could never be satisfied. Monio had been a rebel once, like his daughter. The God Emperor had tested him, broken him, and remade him into the most loyal servant in the Empire. Monio looked at the dead Duncan on the crypt floor, and his face went very still. "Send for another one," the God Emperor said. "Yes, Lord, and Monio, your daughter has the journals." Monio's stillness deepened. "I know, Lord. She will try to distribute them. To the Bene Gesserit, the Guild, the Ixians. She will ask for help translating them. You will stop her, Lord?" "No," the God Emperor said. "Let her. I want to see what she does with them." The Secret Agent and the Poem. Nayla, a fish speaker who reports directly to the God Emperor through an Ixian implant, knelt in her quarters and composed a message in her mind. The Ixian device buried in her skull transcribed her thoughts into coded pulses and sent them winging across the Citadel to his receivers. She told him everything. Siona's plan to copy the stolen journals. The plan to send copies to the Bene Gesserit chapter house, to the Spacing Guild, to the Ixian embassy. The names of the rebels who would carry them. The meeting place where the distribution would be organized. Every word Siona had spoken, or as near as Nayla's trained memory could reconstruct. Nayla was a fish speaker, one of the all-female army that served as his priesthood, his police force, his government, his worshippers. She had been selected for this mission because she was fanatical. He had given her a Christ knife in an old Fremen ritual, drawing blood from her finger and swearing her never to unsheath it without drawing blood. She wore the knife concealed in her uniform at all times. She believed he was God. She believed her service to him was the highest purpose any human could aspire to, and now she was serving Siona, who was plotting to destroy the god she worshipped because the god had ordered it. The message sent, Nayla rose and went to the rebel meeting. Siona was waiting for her in the bolt hole under the old drainage tunnel, a space chosen by Topri, one of the rebels Nayla did not trust. Topri was too eager, too careless. He had chosen this meeting place without consulting Siona, and Siona had noticed. Nayla could see the suspicion in her eyes, the way she catalogued the room's weaknesses as she entered. Siona wasted no time. She demanded Nayla explain her oath. "You swore to obey me. Why?" Nayla answered truthfully. As far as the truth went, she had sworn to obey Siona for God's sake, because God commanded it. Siona accepted this. She did not know that God was the one receiving Nayla's reports. She thought she had leverage. To demonstrate that she understood the God Emperor's weaknesses better than Nayla did, she showed her something she had found in the stolen journals. A sheet of Redulian crystal paper. Pressed into it was a strand of hair, Ganima's hair, his twin sister, dead now for millennia, and a dried starflower blossom, and a poem in his own hand, written when he had learned of Ganima's death. A poem about loss, about love, about the loneliness of being the last of one's kind. "He is capable of love," Siona said. "That is a weakness. That is something we can use." Nayla looked at the hair, the flower, the poem. She felt something shift in her chest. She was not certain whether it was doubt or a deeper faith. She filed the feeling away and finished the meeting, and later that night she sent another message to the God Emperor describing what Siona had found. The anomaly. The God Emperor received the report about the poem and felt something almost like amusement. Siona had found his sentimentality. Good. Let her think it was a vulnerability. He had loved Ganima. He still loved her. The memory of her was a wound that had never fully closed, and he had no intention of letting it close. Pain was a reminder of what he had been, what he was sacrificing, what the golden path demanded. He discussed Siona with Moneo in the crypt, after the dead Duncan's body had been removed. Moneo was worried about his daughter. He was always worried about his daughter. "She fades from my prescient view," the God Emperor told him. "Have I mentioned this?" "Yes, Lord." Moneo's voice was careful. "She is unique. I have never encountered a human who could escape my vision the way she does. She is exactly what I have been trying to create." "Then she is the culmination?" Moneo could not quite keep the hope out of his voice. "A culmination might survive. A culmination might be spared." "She is a step," the God Emperor said. "A crucial step. But she has not yet proven herself. She must be tested." Moneo's face tightened. He knew what these tests involved. He had survived his own, but it had destroyed the rebel he had been and left the major domo in its place. He did not want that for Siona. "Government is a shared myth," the God Emperor said, almost to himself. "I am the ultimate myth killer. Siona understands that instinctively, even if she cannot articulate it. That is why she rebels. That is why she matters." He did not tell Moneo the rest. He did not say that Siona's prescient invisibility might be hereditary, that her bloodline might carry the trait forward, that a universe full of humans invisible to prescience was a universe where no tyrant, no oracle, no God Emperor could ever again impose a single vision on the species. That was the Golden Path's goal. That was the purpose of 3,500 years of tyranny. Siona did not know it yet, but she would. The Duncan Awakens. This is Duncan Idaho, not the original, but a ghola, a resurrected copy from Tleilaxu tanks, carrying the memories of the Atreides swordmaster. He woke on a cold table in a featureless Tleilaxu room. The ceiling was gray, the walls were gray, the door had no handle on the inside. He was wearing coarse brown trousers and a jacket that irritated his skin. Sandals, nothing else. He knew immediately that he was a ghola. The knowledge came with the memories, his own death, the lasgun in his hand, the God Emperor's body crushing his chest. He remembered dying. And now he was alive again, in a body that felt wrong, a body that had been grown in an axolotl tank from cells taken from his original corpse. The Tleilaxu had resurrected him, as they had resurrected all the Duncans before him. He remembered the conditioning. A face dancer, one of the Tiliaxu shapeshifters, had worn a familiar face, someone he was supposed to trust, and had whispered a command, "Kill a certain Atreides." The command had not held. His original loyalty had surfaced faster than the Tleilaxu expected. He had broken the face dancer's arm before the guards pulled him off. And then nothing until this cold table, this gray room, this new body that still did not feel like his own. Late, the door opened. Two women entered. One was young, dark-haired, with the open face and direct gaze of a soldier. She introduced herself as Luli. The other was masked. A cibus hood concealed everything below her eyes, and she waited near the doorway without speaking. Luli did the talking. She told Duncan where he was. Arrakis, the planet once called Dune, now greened and watered into something almost unrecognizable. She told him who he was, the new commander of the God Emperor's Royal Guard, the all-female fish-speaker army that served as his sword and shield. She told him that mentats were prohibited, that the God Emperor had waited for him, that the God Emperor loved him. Duncan absorbed this. He was not pleased. The idea of commanding a female army was strange to him, almost offensive. The prohibition on mentats, he had known mentats, respected them, and the God Emperor's love felt less like affection than ownership. But he was Duncan Idaho. He had served the Atreides his entire original life, and his entire original life was a bright chain of loyalties that his ghola memories could not break. He would go to the Citadel. He would meet this God Emperor who had been a man he once knew, the son of Paul Muad'Dib. He would see for himself what had become of the Atreides' dream. "Take me to him," he said. Luli let him out. The masked woman followed in silence, her cibus hood revealing nothing. The corridor was stone, ancient, lit by glow globes tuned to a warm yellow. When Duncan glanced back, the masked woman was still there, a step behind, her eyes unreadable above the fabric. He did not ask about her again. He had served Atreides long enough to know that some questions were not meant to be answered. They emerged onto a landing pad. An ornithopter waited, its wings folded, its pilot already in the cockpit. The air outside was warm, thick with moisture and green smells, nothing like the dry heat Duncan remembered from his original life. Dune had been a desert then. Now it was a garden. He climbed into the thopter, and Luli closed the hatch behind him. And the rotors beat the heavy air. The citadel rose on the horizon, a black tower against the setting sun, the seat of the God Emperor's power, the place where Leto I had ruled for 3,500 years. Duncan looked at it and felt something cold settle in his stomach. He did not know what he would find there. He only knew that he was Duncan Idaho, and that the Atreides had called him, and that he would answer as he had always answered, whatever the cost. The rebel ceremony. Siona knelt in the bolt hole under the drainage tunnel and watched Topri begin the ceremony with a Kreis knife that could not cut. The knife was a plastic copy, a tourist piece. She had bought it herself from a museum Fremen named Tysar, in a transaction she remembered with perfect clarity. She had paid double the agreed price because she had wanted the man to remember her. Tysar had sold her the fake Kreis knife and told her it was just like the real ones in the display cases. She had smiled and taken it and kept the contempt off her face. Now, Topri held it aloft and intoned the old Fremen words. He did not know they were old Fremen words. He had learned them from recordings, from museum displays, from the degraded traditions the God Emperor had allowed to survive. He had never drawn blood with a Kreis knife. He had never ridden a sandworm. He had never lived in a sietch or shared water with the tribe. Siona watched him and thought, "This is what the God Emperor has made of us. People who play at being Fremen while the sandworms die, and the desert shrinks and the worm grows more inhuman with every passing century." She was not playing. She was the rebel, the one who had crossed the river when her friends died behind her, the one who carried his secrets in a packet against her ribs. When the ceremony ended, she gave Topri the packet, copies of the stolen volumes, sealed for transport. She told him to send them to the Guild, to the Bene Gesserit, to the Ixians. To anyone who might be able to read the cipher and expose his secrets. Topri took the packet. He was too eager. She had noticed that before. She noticed it again now. The meeting place had been his choice, a room that could be easily sealed and raided. She would not use it again. She would not fully trust Topri again, but the journals were on their way, and somewhere in those pages, she was certain, was the key to breaking the God Emperor's hold on humanity. She did not know that he already had a copy of everything she had stolen. She did not know that Nalasnak's message was already winging through the Citadel's receivers, informing him of the plan, the couriers, the destinations. She did not know that the test had already begun. Episode 2: The Festival and the Ixian Ambassador. The man who slipped through the bolt-hole door wore no mask. His face was long and imperious, the mouth a narrow slit. Io Kobat had been the Ixian ambassador to the court of the God Emperor for 7 years. Now he was nothing, a disgraced diplomat with orders to leave Arrakis before sunset. Siona let him stand against the wall. She did not offer him a chair. You arranged an assassination attempt and failed. Why should I not kill you now? Kobat's throat moved. Because I can still be useful. She questioned him about the Ixian Mechanical Navigator project. Kobat tried evasion. Siona pressed. She told him the project was a lie and that Leto knew it was a lie, and that Leto permitted the lie to continue because it amused him to watch the Guild and the Bene Gesserit scramble after vapor. Kobat's composure cracked. There was a new ambassador. He told her a woman named Hui Nori, trained specifically for this post, approved with unusual speed. Siona filed the name away. Then she gave Kobat the package. It was a sealed container, heavier than it looked. Inside were copies of 2 volumes stolen from the God Emperor's own fortress journals, written in a cipher no one in Siona's cell could crack. The originals were Redulian crystal paper, a medium Leto demanded for reasons Siona could not yet fathom. You will carry this yourself. You will place it directly in the hands of your masters. Tell them the contents are the God Emperor's own words. Tell them that if they wish to understand the enemy they serve, they will help me read what I have stolen. Kobat took the package. His hands trembled. If I am caught, then you will die. But you will die anyway if you return to Ix empty-handed. She paused. And tell them one more thing. The God Emperor's private chambers contain a hidden panel where he stores his journals. I found it. I took from it. He knows I was there. He has not stopped me. Think about what that means. Kobat thought about it. His face went gray. We are all being used, Siona said. The question is whether we use each other better than he uses us. Go. Topri led Kobat out through a secondary tunnel. Nayla stood guard and watched with complete neutrality, chattable. Her Ixian implant was already recording. By nightfall, the God Emperor would know everything. Siona permitted herself a moment of cold satisfaction. The journals were on their way. Whatever Leto had hidden in those pages, the Ixians would find it. She did not know that the God Emperor had already read every word she had stolen. Huinori faces the Inquisitors. Half a galaxy away, in the Grand Palais of Ix, a young woman stood before a panel of Inquisitors. Her name was Huinori, small and compact, with calm eyes and a voice that carried no hesitation. The Inquisitor General leaned forward. You have stated that the Lord Leto's physical transformation was a sacrifice. Explain. My Lord Inquisitor, Leto Atreides, chose to merge his body with the sand trout of Arrakis. The result is a form that no longer resembles a human being. The change has brought him immense power, but it has cost him everything else: companionship, physical pleasure, the ability to walk among his subjects as one of them. No one would choose such a fate for power alone. There must have been a threat. He must have seen something in humanity's future that only such a change could prevent. You cannot know what he saw. No, but I can reason from the scale of the sacrifice. He gave up his humanity. That is not the act of a tyrant seeking comfort. The Inquisitors exchanged glances. Hui had been bred for this, selected, trained, shaped by programs the Ixians had been refining for generations. They wanted an ambassador who could find the crack in Leto's armor. Her empathy was precisely the tool they needed. What they did not anticipate was that the tool would be genuine. We believed what she was saying. She was confirmed before the hour was out. She would travel to Arrakis and present herself to the God Emperor at the Decennial Festival in On. When the Guild Navigator announced the fold space jump, she closed her eyes and tried to imagine what 3,000 years of solitude might feel like. She could not. But she meant to find out. The Lost Desert. The royal cortege moved along the high road above the Kine Sea. Leto rode in his cart the Ixian machine that carried his vast worm-shaped body on silent suspensors. Beside the cart walked Munio. A half-step behind walked Duncan Idaho, the new ghola commander of the God Emperor's royal guard. Duncan still moved with the wariness of a man expecting ambush. The God Emperor stopped the cart. He was not looking at the road, he was looking at the sea, and the green slope, and the mountains beyond. "Do you know what I am looking at, Monio?" "No, Lord, nothing. I am looking at nothing that used to be here." He shifted. "Duncan, come up here." Duncan walked forward and felt a sudden, inexplicable ache. The landscape was beautiful. It was also wrong. Every fiber of his ghola memory screamed that this should be desert. "The Tanzaruft," Leto said. "Do you remember it? The Great Desert." Duncan's voice was rough. 1,000 kilometers of sand. Nothing else. The shield wall used to rise where those mountains are. You are standing on it. When the worms died and the desert shrank, the sea filled the basin. There were Fremen who lived their whole lives never seeing the sea. Now their descendants fish in it. He paused. Of all who live on this planet today, only the two of us ever saw the desert original. Everyone else was born into the garden. They do not know what was lost. Duncan said nothing. He was seeing the sand that lay beneath the water, the bones of the old world, drowned and forgotten. He thought of Stilgar, Chani, the Fedaykin who had died from Muad'Dib. Their children's children's children were now fishing in a sea that should not exist. Maneo, watching the God Emperor's face, saw something rarely visible. Leto looked old, not tired old. When Leto signaled the cortege to resume, Maneo resolved to warn Siona. The God Emperor was in a dangerous mood. Whatever Leto was feeling, it would find an outlet. It always did. The warning. Reverend Mother Antiac sat in her quarters in the festival city and read the Tliaxu message for the third time. The recording was on a single-use Shigawire spool. "We will strike him today before he reaches on. We cannot fail." Antiac played it for Luzial, a younger Reverend Mother with more ambition than judgment. Luzial wanted to alert the fish speaker guard immediately. Antiac stopped her. "If we warn them and the attack succeeds, we make an enemy of whoever replaces Leto. If it fails, we win no gratitude. He will only ask how we came to possess Tlilaxu intelligence. Then we do nothing. We prepare. We seal our quarters. We arm our guards. And we watch." A second message arrived an hour later from the Ixian embassy. Othwi Yak, the ranking diplomat, had been seized by face dancers. The embassy was compromised. Antiac read the finger-tapped code herself. "We have been invaded by face dancers and cannot move." Luziel's mouth tightened. "Face dancers, here." In the festival city. "They are not unrelated events," Antiac said. She thought briefly of contacting Siona. The rebel Atreides was known to the chapter house, but there was no time, no secure channel. The Bene Gesserit delegation sealed its doors and waited. The face dancers. Duncan Idaho was walking beside the cart when the petitioners rose. Manio had arranged them museum fremen from a village near the old Sarir, screened and verified, a routine gesture of accessibility. 12 of them knelt in the road as the cart approached, weathered faces, traditional brown robes, and the 12 petitioners rose as one and began to change. Duncan saw the faces melt first. Flesh ran like wax, bodies lengthened, still suits split at the seams. In less than 3 heartbeats, 12 copies of his own face stared back at him, 12 identical gholas, each wearing the uniform of the Royal Guard, each carrying a lasgun. He heard the guttural Tlilaxu battle commands, a combat language no one else in the Empire used. He shouted a warning. The lasguns fired. Fish speakers surged past him. Fire teams moved forward. Shields snapped on. Crossfire patterns sealed the road. But the face dancers were fast. 2 broke through the cordon and aimed directly at the canopy. A lasgun beam punched through it. Duncan saw the cart lurch. It did not stop. It drove straight at the attackers. 5 tons of worm body and metal crushed 2 face dancers beneath the wheels. The fish speakers cut down the rest. When the firing stopped, more than 30 were dead. 9 face dancers lay in the road, bodies reverting to gray, featureless forms. Duncan ripped his uniform off and threw it at his feet. He stood naked in the middle of the road, arms spread wide so every fish speaker could see he was flesh, real. "They looked exactly like me." His voice shook. "The Tlilaxu have my cells. Anyone could be their clothing betrayed them," Leto said from the cart. "They wore your uniform, but the bodies beneath were wrong. From now on, if anyone claims to be Duncan Idaho, have them take off their clothes. The face dancers cannot mimic a man who is not wearing a face dancer's skin." Duncan looked down at the nearest gray body. They wanted me to know who sent them. This was not an assassination attempt. It was a message. Monio approached, arm bandaged from a lasgun graze. He reported the damage to the cart canopy. Lord, I arranged the petition. The screening process, Monio. The God Emperor's voice was gentle. You are not to blame for the Telelaxis cleverness, but you will be more careful in future. But the lasgun damage it burned through. Are you injured? Duncan looked at the hole in the canopy. The beam had passed within centimeters of the God Emperor's face. The lasgun cannot harm me, Leto said. Tell no one what you saw. Let them think even lasguns are useless against me. Duncan said nothing. The God Emperor was not injured, but the hole was real, and the distance between the beam and that ancient face was small enough to measure with a hand. He filed the observation away. The whip. The Tleilaxu ambassador was named Nunapi, a small man, gray-skinned, over-large eyes. He presented himself at the festival plaza 4 hours after the attack, summoned without explanation. The plaza was packed. The God Emperor's cart was positioned on the raised platform. Courtiers filled the balconies. Citizens packed the lower tiers. The decennial festival was a celebration, and the God Emperor had just survived assassination. The crowd was in a mood for justice. Nunapi mounted the platform and bowed. Lord Leto, I was horrified to learn of the attack. The Tleilaxu people, the attack was conducted by Tleilaxu face dancers. They carried lasguns of Tleilaxu manufacture. They used Tleilaxu battle commands. Do you deny your people were responsible? Lord, I have no knowledge of. There are rumors about me, Ambassador. Lies that circulate among the great houses. Some originate with the Tleilaxu. Stories about my sexual habits. Leto's human face smiled. It was not pleasant. I have no sexual habits. None. The transformation you see has removed that possibility from existence. The lies your people tell are not merely false, they are impossible. Lord, I swear you will be flogged. 20 lashes, here in this plaza. Your spice allotment for the coming year will be halved. You will leave Arrakis within 2 days and not return. 2 fish speakers seized Nunapi and dragged him to the tripod. They stripped him to the waist and bound his wrists above his head. The whip was traditional Fremen alaka rope, frayed at the ends, designed to cut without breaking bone. The first lash fell before Nunapi had finished screaming. Duncan watched from the edge of the platform. He had seen floggings before, but this was theater. The crowd counted lashes aloud. And the fish speakers watched with reverent satisfaction. The God Emperor watched with mild curiosity. 10 lashes in, Nunapi's back was torn skin and blood. 15 lashes in, he made wet, choking sounds. At 20, Leto raised one small flipper-like hand and said, Enough. Why 20? Duncan asked. His voice was flat. Because it is more than 19 and less than 21. The Tleilaxu believe their attack failed. They believe I am stronger than they thought. They will now be afraid. The flogging reinforces that fear. It tells them I know who attacked me, and their punishment for failure is shame. He paused. But I did not kill their ambassador. That leaves room to negotiate. Fear plus shame plus hope of reconciliation, that is how you manipulate a people like the Tleilaxu. And the lies about your sexual habits? A rumor that cannot be laughed at is a rumor that will be believed. I have laughed at it. Now it will die. Duncan looked at Nunapi's bleeding body. He thought about the fact that the God Emperor had ordered 20 lashes, had counted them, had stopped at exactly the right moment for the desired effect. Leto was not cruel. He was something worse. He was precise. The Ixian bait. The private audience chamber beneath the plaza was small and cool, lit by Ixian prisms that painted the walls in gold. 12 fish speaker guards stood silent behind Leto's cart. Winori walked in alone. She wore a formal gown of Ixian silk, deep blue. Her dark hair was pulled back. She walked without hesitation, without visible fear, and stopped precisely 10 paces from the cart. The light pooled around her. Leto felt something shift inside him the moment he saw her. Not desire, he no longer possessed the equipment for desire, but something like recognition. The woman radiated calm. It was cultivated. He could see that, but it was also genuine. The Ixians had trained her to project peace, and the training had become part of her. He knew what she was. The Ixians had been breeding specialist humans for centuries. Her function was obvious. She had been built to charm him. Every detail, her face, her voice, her carriage, her intelligence had been calibrated to appeal to a creature alone for 3,500 years. She was bait, and he was delighted. You are Huinori, I am Lord. I am sent by the Ixian Federation to serve as ambassador to your court. The previous ambassador arranged an assassination attempt and was expelled. I am aware, Lord. I hope to serve you better. He studied her. He could see the pulse beating in her throat. She was afraid, but controlling it. He respected that. Your ancestor, Malky. You resemble him. I have been told so, Lord. I never knew him. He was gone before I was born. Gone, not dead. I do not know, Lord. I was given no information about his fate. Leto filed that away. Malky had been the Ixian ambassador centuries ago, a man who had amused him. Malky had vanished into an Ixian project that Leto's prescience could not penetrate, a project concealed by technology that blocked oracular vision. Possibility that Hui had come from that hidden project was intriguing. He questioned her gently. Hui answered everything with disarming directness. She had no friends. She did not know her exact age. I guess I'm about 26. I've never celebrated a birthday. I only learned about birthdays by accident. I asked what a birthday was. I never saw that teacher again. Leto felt something painful twist in his chest. Sympathy, a human emotion he had thought the worm consumed long ago. They made you to charm me. Yes, Lord. Malchus' instructions, I think. He said, I was being prepared to charm you. And yet you tell me this openly. I cannot lie to you, Lord. You would know. I believe honesty is the only foundation for trust. And I wish to be trusted. He was silent. Then he asked the question. You were conceived inside a machine, the Ixian navigation machine, the project the guild is so desperate to acquire. You were grown there, in a space my prescience cannot see. Hui's calm flickered. I do not know the details of my birth, Lord. I know only that I was prepared in a place no one could see. And now you are here, and I find that I am glad. He paused. I should be angry. The Ixians have sent me a woman designed to exploit my loneliness, and I should respond by punishing them. But I am not angry. I am pleased. You are the most interesting thing that has happened to me in centuries. The admission had cost him something. He could feel the vulnerability of it, like an exposed nerve. You will be my ambassador, permanently. I will not permit the Ixians to recall you. If they try, I will crush them. His voice was gentle. Do you understand? I understand, Lord. Good. We will speak again. Hui bowed and walked out. Her steps were steady. Her hands trembled. The grandmother's voice. The Bene Gesserit delegation was received at the False Sietch, a museum exhibition hall dressed to look like old Fremen settlements. Leto greeted them in the voice of his grandmother, the Lady Jessica. Sisters, he said, and it was Jessica's voice, the exact tone, dead 3,000 years but living in the God Emperor's ancestral memory. Antiac stiffened. Luzial went pale. The God Emperor continued in Jessica's voice. You carry spice essence. I can smell it. Put it on the ledge. Luzial froze. The vial. I can smell it. The ledge before me. Her hand moved slowly to withdraw the vial. She placed it on the stone ledge. You intended to test me. Let me explain something. My brain has grown enormously over the centuries. The human skull dissolved long ago. The sand trout that form my skin, they do not react to spice as a poison. They perceive it only as they perceive water. Your test was useless from the start. Antiac kept her face perfectly still. Your order has been trying to influence my fish speakers. You have been trying to subvert my government. You have been spreading rumors about the Ixian mechanical project. And now you attempt to test me with spice essence. I should have you executed. Both of you. Luziel made a small, terrified sound. But I will not. I will continue your spice allotment. Because I want you to report what you have learned here. I want your reverent mothers to understand that I am not their oracle. I am not their tool. I am not predictable. And I am not weak. He dismissed them. The vial remained on the ledge unexamined, unwanted, a reminder of how little the Bene Gesserit understood the creature they were dealing with. The Hunter of Hunters. That night, Leto received Duncan's report on the wolf poachers. The D-Wolves patrolled the boundaries of the Sarir, the protected zone around his citadel, descendants of the wolves his father had brought to Arrakis millennia ago. Someone was hunting them. It's systematic, Duncan said. The raiders use light aircraft, come in at night, kill the wolves from the air with long-range lasguns. They've taken 17 in the past month. The raiders are using guild sensors. They know where the patrols are before the patrols know themselves. Then how do we stop them? Leto told him. Duncan would take fish speakers into the Sarir at 3 specific locations, coordinates delivered without hesitation. At each site, they would set up an ambush. The raiders would come expecting undefended wolf packs. They would find armed women, kill all of them, except one at each site. Let them carry the news back. Duncan absorbed the orders, his face expressionless. You object, Leto said. I obey. I gave my word. But the wolves, you care about them more than the Tleilaxu ambassador. The wolves are loyal, the Tleilaxu are not. Loyalty is rare, Duncan. It deserves protection. Duncan nodded slowly. The God Emperor valued loyalty above almost everything else. It was why he kept resurrecting Duncans. It was why Monio, for all his fear, remained at his side. It was why the fish speakers, fanatical and brainwashed, were trusted with weapons that could, theoretically, destroy him. Loyalty was the one thing Leto could not manufacture. It had to be given freely. Duncan left to prepare his ambush. The agent reports. Nayla climbed the tower stairs. The Ixian implant at her jaw was warm, active. She counted steps 47 from the first landing to the second and let her breathing settle into the rhythm of the climb. When Monio had asked where she was going, she had said she needed to inspect the upper guard posts. He had not questioned her. He never questioned her. She reached the tower door. It opened without a knock. The God Emperor was waiting. The feeling. When the chamber was empty, Leto remained motionless on the cart. He reached out with one small hand and pressed it flat against the cart's surface. The sand trout along his arm rippled a crawling sensation, as though his skin were trying to separate from his body. He thought of He's face in the prisms, the light pooling around her, her voice saying she wished to be trusted. He withdrew his hand. The sand trout stilled. Outside, the festival continued. Citizens danced and drank and celebrated the reign of the God Emperor Leto I. None of them knew that the God Emperor was lying awake, feeling something he had not felt in centuries, and knowing that whatever it was, it had already cost him more than he could afford.